What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Kommander MTG YouTube channel. I'm your host, Jason Komm, and today we have another Kommander Spotlight. This time we have Ghyrson Starn Kelermorph, my favorite Kommander from the 40k Kommander decks. When I saw this card, I instantly thought of pingers, and that's what we've built around today. I'm going to give you my 10 favorite cards you should consider when building this Kommander. As always, I built a budget version of this deck, coming in around 75 bucks, which gives you a great starting point to build this Kommander out. A link is in the description below. Stay tuned until the end of the video for a card you've probably never heard of before. Let's get into it. First up, the pingers, baby. Prodigal Sorcerer and Prodigal Pyromancer can deal damage to creatures and players, while Thermo Alchemist deals damage to each opponent and can untap itself under the right conditions. There are a ton of cards like this in red and blue, and I've stuffed most of them into the budget deck in the description. With our Kommander, each of these cards basically has tap, deal 3 damage. We can use this damage to kill our opponent's creatures or simply go face and go the group slug route. The best way to play these cards is to leave them untapped and use them in real time against your opponents. This allows you to make all sorts of deals like, hey, if you don't attack me this turn, I won't kill your commander. And if nothing happens or threatens you, you can simply unload all the damage directly at the opponent's end step before your turn. With all the ways to give these cards Death Touch, Bounce, or Card Draw that we'll talk about later, when they ping something, they become very versatile and a ton of fun to play. Next up is 1000-Year Elixir. This 3-mana artifact gives creatures with activated abilities haste, and for 1 mana we can untap target creature. This card gives all of our pingers the ability to do damage the moment we play them. This basically turns the deck's power level up to 11 and enables all our strategies and shenanigans to play out at a much quicker pace. On top of that, we can untap a creature each turn. Imagine having our Kommander and 1000-Year Elixir in play when playing out Thermo Alchemist. We can instantly tap Thermo Alchemist, dealing 3 damage to each opponent. Pay 1 more mana to untap it, then tap it again to deal another 3 damage to each opponent. 1000-Year Elixir just enabled us to pay 2 mana to deal 9 total damage and 1 more mana to do another 9 total damage. 3 mana to deal 18 damage to our opponents. This card makes playing the deck so much more fun and really allows us to be interactive and threatening out of nowhere. Next up is End the Festivities, a 1-mana sorcery that deals 1 damage to each opponent and each creature and planeswalker they control. Good God, can 1 mana turn into a ton of damage in GSK. Imagine it's turn 6 or 7 and you're playing against nearly any token deck. This card is basically a 1-mana sweeper. Applying the extra 2 damage that GSK will deal on top of End the Festivities, you're likely to take out any token, mana dork, low-cost commanders, or other utility creatures. For 1 mana, you can easily deal 20 plus damage across the board with GSK. Next up is Caltrop, a 3-mana artifact that deals 1 damage whenever a creature attacks. In this deck, this is basically an asymmetrical effect. Since our deck is full of pingers, we won't be attacking much at all, meaning this will affect only our opponents. With GSK on board, this will turn into 3 damage to any creature that attacks. This can make attacking and blocking difficult for your opponents, maybe even leading them to skip combat altogether. And that is exactly what we want them to do as a pinger deck. We are open to huge crackbacks from our opponents, and this helps protect us from that. Next up, Sigil of Sleep. This 1-mana aura has whenever the enchanted creature deals damage to a player, return target creature that player controls to its owner's hand. Imagine having this on our commander alongside 3 pingers. We tap our pingers to deal 1 damage to each opponent directly, GSK adds on another 2 damage to each of them, and then because of Sigil of Sleep, we can bounce a creature from each of their boards too. This card can do a ton of work for us by helping clear the board of any big threats or simply keeping our opponents in check. This can also be an amazing political tool to make all sorts of deals. For only 1 mana, the pressure it can apply when used with our commander is just crazy. Next up, Basilisk Collar. This 1-mana artifact gives the equipped creature Death Touch and Lifelink. Imagine having this on our commander alongside 3 pingers. Every turn, all you'd have to do is tap our 3 pingers, and because GSK deals another 2 damage on top of that, we would kill any creature dealt damage and gain 2 life for each ping. This basically gives all our pingers tap, deal 3 damage, gain 2 life, and Death Touch. When we consistently have 3 or more pingers on board, the crowd control and life gain is just nuts. Next up, Curiosity. This 1-mana aura has whenever enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. When we put this on our commander, it gives us the ability to control how many cards we want and when. A lot of the time in this deck, you'll want to hold your pingers up in order to threaten your opponents on their turn, but if they don't have anything worth getting rid of, or you make some sort of deal, we can turn the damage directly at our opponents and use GSK's triggers to draw cards instead. This is a great way to keep our hands full throughout the game, whether we want to draw only one extra card this turn, or we need to instantly dig and look for answers. This is an amazing card that you'll get a ton of value out of. Next up, Throne of the God Pharaoh. This 2-mana artifact has at the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses life equal to the number of tapped creatures you control. When it gets down to the late game and you need to start finishing people off, this card can come in clutch with big consistent damage. It's not uncommon to have 5 pingers on board in the late game. Imagine you only have one opponent left and you ping them in the face 5 times. With our commander, this would deal 15 damage. Then when you pass the turn, they would take another 5 damage from Throne of the God Pharaoh. This is one of my absolute favorite cards, and for how much damage it can do over the course of the game, 2 mana is an insanely good price for this effect. If played out early enough, this card could easily do 15 plus damage to each opponent over the course of the game. It is just nuts. Next is Dramatic Reversal. This 2-mana instant untaps all non-land permanents you control. When you have this card in hand and you have a decent board setup, it basically reads 2 mana, remove target player from the game. Imagine having a board with GSK and a few pingers, tapping all of them to deal 15 damage to an opponent, then paying 2 mana for Dramatic Reversal and doing it again. Not only can you use this offensively, but defensively as well. If you've already tapped down and an opponent starts to go off, you can use this to thwart a lot of incoming pressure to buy yourself another turn. Now imagine having GSK equipped with some of the cards already mentioned like Sigil of Sleep, Basilisk Collar, and Curiosity, and doubling up on all those triggers. This is a major gotcha card that your opponents won't see coming and is such a fun card to play. And lastly, a card you've probably never seen before, Flame Fusillade. This 4-mana sorcery turns all permanents you control into pingers until the end of turn. Notice how this includes lands. Imagine having 10 lands in play with a full board of pingers and GSK. You just added 6 more pingers or 18 more damage on top of whatever damage your other pingers can do. If you've never seen this card before, you can be sure your opponents haven't either, and they will never see it coming. They may account for the damage from the pingers you have on board, but they will never account for the extra damage coming from your lands. Thanks for watching, everyone. Let me know in the comments which of these cards you want to play and if you have any suggestions for others. I love interacting with people on my channel and would love to hear your suggestions. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking it and subscribe to the channel for more content. I'm Jason Komm from Kommander MTG. Have fun pinging the crap out of your opponents. I'll see you in the next one. Pinger, 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 ping. Pinger, 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 ping.